Hola, tu amiga Latina here. Do you know the difference between bien and bueno? Because I've noticed that people learning Spanish sometimes think that they mean more or less the same thing, or they get them completely mixed up and say bueno when they should say bien, and vice versa. And let me tell you, amigo, él está bien is not the same thing as él está bueno. More on that later. That's why I created this video, because I want to share with you what I consider are the two most important things you should know if you want to master the way you use bien and bueno. And that is definitely an indicator that your Spanish is at a whole other level. So let's jump into the first thing that you should know in order to master the way you use bien and bueno. Let's see how different they really are. Bien means, well, fine, okay. Bien is an adverb, so we use it to talk about how someone is doing or how something is done. For example, ella canta bien. She sings well, right? I'm describing how she's doing something. Another example, él cocina bien. He cooks well. Again, describing how something is done. With regards to how someone is doing, estoy bien. I'm doing well. That's how we would say it in English. Él está bien. I will expand and clarify this in depth. But for now, when you think of bien, think of actions and states of being. Then we have bueno, which means good. And this is an adjective, so we use it to describe the quality of someone or something. Pretty straightforward. El café colombiano es bueno. Colombian coffee is good. I'm describing the quality of the coffee, right? And here, mind you, when I say él es bueno, I mean he is a good person. I'm describing the moral quality of that someone that I'm talking about. It's very different from estoy bien. Él es bueno, he is a good person. Let's highlight how different bueno and bien are, because bueno changes form 3 times. It changes form when we are talking about singular or plural. For example, ellos son buenos cocineros. They are good cooks. It also changes when we are talking about gender, whether it's female or masculine. Ella es buena cocinera, or ellas son buenas cocineras. And then the third form that it can take is when I'm using the masculine form in front of the adjective that I'm talking about. We're going to drop the O, and it's just going to be buen. Él es buen cocinero, right? So I could either say él es buen cocinero or él es un cocinero bueno. What's really the difference? Whatever you want to emphasize, whether you want to put the adjective at the beginning to emphasize that or put the adjective after. Just remember that when you put it before, drop the O. So up until here, those are the main differences between bien and bueno. When you think of bien, think of actions and states of being. When you think of bueno, think of objects and people. Now, let's jump into the second thing that I believe you should know in order to stop getting them mixed up. It's how to use them with the verb to be. As a quick recap, because the verb to be can be a video of its own, let's just remember that in Spanish, we have 2 forms for the verb to be. We have ser, which is the more permanent form of the verb, which would include, think about like your nationality or your name, for example, or something that stays consistent throughout time, like a profession. Then on the other hand, we have the other form of the verb to be, which is estar. It is more temporary, it changes more frequently, and it's more particular. Think about your location or your mood, for example. So knowing that, with the verb ser, which is a more permanent form, we never use bien. We never use yo soy bien or él es bien. Why? Because it's not consistent. It's not even coherent. Ser is is a permanent form of the verb to be. And then bien, as we said, is an adverb that tells me how something or someone is doing. So unless you're doing permanently fine, which is not, again, it's not consistent, that's why ser and bien, no. Ser being used with characteristics that are more permanent. When used with bueno, again, ser bueno, I'm talking about moral qualities. Él es bueno. right? Like we said before, he is a good person. When I'm describing something, it also means in more general, permanent terms, like the example that we had before. El café colombiano es bueno. Colombian coffee is good. I'm talking in general, Colombian coffee being good. So, would you happen to know what is the difference between el café es bueno y el café está bueno? Let's jump into the second form of the verb to be to understand this into more depth. Estar, like we said, is the more temporary form. It's more particular. So when I'm describing something, I'm talking about something being good right now or within a particular moment in time. In other words, when I say el café es bueno, este café está muy bueno, I'm saying coffee is good in general and this coffee is very good. Another example would be el restaurante es bueno y la comida de hoy está buenísima. The restaurant is good and food today is very good. That's another form where you can amplify or emphasize very good. Buenísimo or buenísima. So that's estar bueno for things. When we are talking about people, él está bueno or ella está buena, it may not be what you think. It's not they're good. It really means they're hot, they're sexy. So this one, we don't really use it a lot unless you're talking in a particular situation about someone being sexy. So it's pretty straightforward. Estar bueno, we refer to things of how good they are. We're describing that quality. And with people, it's particularly to say they are hot or sexy. So now you're starting to get the difference between estoy bien and estoy buena. Speaking about that, let's jump into estar, how we use estar and bien. Estar bien, like we said, is how someone is doing or something. When I'm talking about something being done, it's whether it's adequate or not. Let's take it into examples. Estoy bien technically would mean I am being well, right? In English, we don't say, it's not said like that. It's really said, I am doing well. But the direct translation would be, I am being well. So when you ask, ¿cómo estás? Estar, the verb estar, you're asking them, how are you being? I'm being well. Estoy bien. Ella está bien. She is being well. She's well. Está bien. And then when I'm talking about something, an example would be, el cuarto del hotel está bien. The hotel room is fine. It's okay, right? I'm talking about adequacy. And here is the contrast, the difference between está bien and está bueno. Está bien, again, we're talking about adequacy, how something is doing, right? Like you could say the hotel room is doing fine, if that would make sense in English. But está bueno is how good something is. So when I say bueno, I'm emphasizing it's very good. So it's different when I say la comida está bien, food is fine, it's adequate. When I say la comida está buena, food is very good, food is good. So now up until here, you understand the contrast between bien and bueno, and you understand how to use it with the verb to be. If you stayed all the way through this video, I commend you for your commitment to improve your Spanish, and I have a bonus for you. Because when you put bien before an adjective, it amplifies, it becomes very. So for example, if I say bien frío, very cold, bien fácil, very easy, bien divertido, very fun. So now a question for you. How would you say this video is very good? Exactly. Este video está bien bueno. That's all for today, and as for me, I will see you in the next video.